is right on the hour. My name is Chris Lim from Saracen. Welcome and thank you for your time this morning for this Configuration Manager presentation around System Center 2016. First, I just wanted to check that you can all hear me, so if someone's kindly able to post a note in the chat window to make sure that the audio is working, that would be much appreciated.
And looks like they got you there, Chris. I'm seeing lots in the Q&A portion. So
great, excellent. Well, let's make a start. Again, my name is Chris Lim. I'm based in London. I run the Saracen business for EMEA, and within London we have our solution architecture team, our support team, as well as our consultancy. We're delighted today to have Wally with us presenting about Configuration Manager for System Center 2016, which is a hot topic, and I know a lot of folks are interested in seeing what's new. So without further ado, Wally, I'll hand over to you to take us through the agenda and run us through the presentation.
All right, thank you very much, Chris, and want to add my welcome to you all as well. So good morning or good afternoon if you're a bit east of the UK area. So thanks for taking a little bit of time out of your day to hear what we have to offer here for you. I do have the recording going. So my name is Wally Mead. I'm a Principal Program Manager at Saracen, and I've been with Saracen about 2.5 years now after 22 years at Microsoft working in the Configuration Manager product group. So been around for a long Configuration Manager and SMS for a long period of time, and excited to get to keep working on it. And over at Saracen, I help them with our Configuration Manager solutions that we're working on. So just a couple of housekeeping things for you. We are recording. This recording will be posted up on the Vimeo site where all of our webinars go. It should get up there possibly tomorrow. If not, first thing on Monday, I'm sure it'll be up there, so you can look for that. And I believe you'll get an email sometime after it gets posted just to let you know where the recording is if you want to go back and listen to it again or want to look at some of the demos or whatever. So that's there. As I'm going through the presentation, if you guys want to post any questions, just go to the questions panel and go ahead and type up your question, and that will appear there. I don't normally look at those throughout the when I'm presenting. I don't know if Chris is going to look at them and then ask them later on, but I usually just wait till the end because they distract me, so I don't want to look at them and get distracted by what I'm doing. So, but I will get to them, and I'll hang around as long as you guys want to ask questions at the end. And we'll keep the recording going through those, so they're in the recording as well. So, but please do type your questions in there, and then hang around to the end of the session when we go through that Q&A session. So with that, just sit back and relax, and hopefully you have a great show and you find it beneficial and worthwhile to your learning. So what we want to talk about today is just quickly who we are as a company at Saracen. That'll just take a couple of minutes, and then we'll jump into the meat of the presentation, which is going to be on System Center 2016 and how it relates to Configuration Manager. So is there a Configuration Manager 2016 product that's available now as of System Center 2016? Is there a new installation or new version of Configuration Manager? So that'll take about 20 minutes or so to go through those couple of topics and explain what's in System Center as far as it relates to Configuration Manager. With the remaining time that we have today, what I want to talk about are a couple of updates in the last two technical previews. So they're called Technical Preview 1609 and 1610. And the reason I want to spend some time on those, especially one thing in 1609, is that everybody is going to be impacted by something that will be coming out as it relates to Technical Preview 1609 when that gets to your production environment. So I'll talk about that as we go later on in the presentation, and I'll show you what that means and give you a demonstration on that as well. So, all right, so the Saracen pillars. Saracen is a company that's been around for 4.5, 5 years now, working entirely around the System Center product line and Microsoft Cloud for Microsoft. We have 5 pillars of our business. The first 3 pillars that you see on the slide now, service management, asset management, and password reset, are all around product technologies that we've developed and provide to customers around providing additional enhancements for the administrator as well as the end users around service manager and what a lot of people would call IT service management. We have password reset solution which is our one solution that doesn't revolve around System Center, but all the rest of our products do. And password reset would be a solution that you all could find beneficial, because you all have help desks to get bombarded with password reset calls. Hey, I forgot my password. And this is a solution that is a self-help password reset solution for end users through a web service we set up. And it integrates with the Windows logon screen as well. The one in the middle is asset management, so it allows you to take Configuration Manager, Operations Manager, Active Directory data, and put it into a Service Manager CMDB. It allows you to enhance that with financial, contractual, business, technical, invoicing, purchasing type information to give you that true lifecycle management of your hardware as well as software assets. Consulting services, if you need any help with implementation of any of our solutions, as well as any core System Center solutions, we have a consulting team. Chris has consultants over there in the UK that can help you out with those. And then lastly, the Partner and Community Enablement team, or the PACE team as we call it, is the team that I'm actually on. And that's the team that we go around and help people with learning of our technologies through presentations at conferences, such as Ignite a few weeks ago, or IT Dev a couple of weeks ago, System Center Universe, which is now being rebranded Experts Live, and so on, as well as user groups. And we also help direct the company in terms of product technologies by interacting with customers and taking that feedback that we get back to product development to enhance our technologies and provide new solutions. So the Cyrus platform, as I mentioned, almost all of our solutions, well, all of them with the exception of password reset, sit on top of System Center as a great engine that Microsoft provides. And of course, that engine can run on whatever your infrastructure needs and desires are, whether it's going to be a cloud-based solution, Microsoft Azure, or an on-premise solution, whether it's physical computers or in a Hyper-V solution. And just a last look at our platform. We have a set of streams, as we call them, individual streams or solutions of technologies. Essentials management gives you that administrative capabilities, enhancements for Service Manager. Service Management gives you end user portal as well as an analyst portal, and some of those benefits around interacting with Service Manager from an end user perspective. Asset Management, as I talked about, taking your data from Configuration Manager in my scenario and letting you enhance that asset data. Our Password Reset for Active Directory solution to give you that self-service password reset scenario. And then lastly, we have a set of free community apps, and that's right now where all of our Configuration Manager solutions are. We got 4 solutions that Davis and I did a webinar on a month ago, so you'll be able to find that recording up on the Vimeo webinar platform. So just go to vimeo.com/teamcyrusson, and you'll be able to find that webinar on our 4 free community solutions that Davis and I did a little while ago. All right, so with that, let's jump into the meat of our presentation. And again, as you guys have questions throughout the webinar, since you're all in a muted mode, listen-only mode, go ahead and type them up in the questions panel, and we'll look at those later on. So System Center 2016, what's included in that suite? So Microsoft recently just made available what they call general availability of System Center 2016, and that was just a couple of weeks ago now. General availability means that you guys can go to whatever your normal distribution channel is, and this is the last bullet on the slide, and I'll go back to the middle in just a second, and download these products, all these different solutions from this suite, and implement them in your appropriate environments. So if you wanted to download the production version of these products, you would go to something like the Volume Licensing Servicing Center, or if you wanted to have a lab-only environment, you go to MSDN, or if you just want the evaluation version, those time-bound versions, you go to the TechNet Evaluation Center. But you guys all know what's in System Center, and it hasn't really changed in the 2016 release as far as what technologies are there. They've all been enhanced and given new capabilities and bug fixes and security things and so on. So Operations Manager, Service Manager, Orchestrator, SMA or Service Management Automation, Data Protection Manager, Virtual Machine Manager, and Service Provider Foundation. Now you notice I have the 2016 designator and all those, whereas on the last bullet with and configuration manager, I don't have the 2016 designator on there, and I'll explain that in just a moment. So System Center 2016 is generally available now, or widely available, or released to market, whatever you want to say. It's generally just referred to as general availability. You can download the individual products or the entire suite from the appropriate distribution channel and implement those in your desired location. Now, how does Configuration Manager relate to that? Because on the previous slide, I had Configuration Manager without 2016 on it. So in System Center 2016, there is a new build of Configuration Manager. That build is not Configuration Manager 2016, however. There is no product called Configuration Manager 2016. Some of you may be out there still running Configuration Manager 2007, which hopefully not, because of the fact that that's no longer supported technology. A number of you are probably running Configuration Manager 2012. And the last two releases, or realistically the last release, which was the last service pack, is still a supported product from the Microsoft product group, which would be Configuration Manager 2012 SP2 or Configuration Manager 2012 R2 SP1. So the new product that came out almost a year ago now, so December of last year, is called System Center Configuration Manager. There's no version like 2007 or 2012. There's no build, there's no year designator. It's just System Center Configuration Manager. Now, because of that, and because of the fact that there's still people out there on the 2007 platform and the 2012 platform, what you find a lot of people referring to the product as is now Configuration Manager Current Branch. So what was included in System Center 2016 is a new baseline build of Configuration Manager Current Branch as of the release that's called 1606. So Configuration Manager 1606 that some of you probably already have implemented from the original baseline build of last December, which is 1511. Then you might have use the update and servicing feature to get to 1602, and then maybe you're already updated to 1606. That build has been turned into a baseline build. And what a baseline build means is that it's a build that you can install a brand new site with, or you can upgrade your existing Configuration Manager 2012 implementation directly to this baseline build, which is now 1606. For those of you that happen to have Config Manager Current Branch 1606 that you've updated to from the 1511 or 1602 builds, you notice that there's a hotfix that became available to you after you got 1606 implemented called the Update Rollup 1 hotfix. And I got the KB number for you on the slide as well, 318-6654. That Update Rollup 1 hotfix is also already included in your 1606 baseline build. So what this means to you guys, if you're not already on Current Branch, what it means is that as you migrate from Configuration Manager 2007 or Configuration Manager 2012, you can migrate directly over to Configuration Manager Current Branch 1606. Or if you're on the 2012 release and you decide to do an in-place upgrade instead of a migration, which is what I would normally recommend, doing the in-place upgrade, you can upgrade directly from Configuration Manager 2012 over to Current Branch version 1606. Previously, in the migration scenario or the upgrade scenario, you had to go to 1511 and then use the updates and servicing feature to get to 1606, and then apply that hotfix after that. Now you don't have to. So if you're still on one of those two older platforms, your life just got easier to get to your final desired version, which will be Configuration Manager Current Branch 1606, because you can go directly there. So that's a nice, cool thing. Now, for those of you that are already on Configuration Manager Current Branch, this release doesn't really buy you anything, because you're already on current branch, and this is just going to be a baseline, so you could install directly at 1606. So it would make it easy for you if you wanted to install a brand new, let's say you had a hierarchy and you wanted to install a brand new primary site at 1606, you could do that. Or if you had to do a recovery scenario or just wanted to start clean, you could do that. But if you're already on current branch, this isn't really that big of a deal for you. It's really more for the people that are on Configuration Manager 2007 as well as those that are on 2012. So that's what the current branch scenario is as part of Configuration Manager that is part of System Center 2016. Now, just to confuse you, and I have that kind of little joke on the slide here, the product group also released a brand new edition of Configuration Manager. It's one that we don't want you to use as a general rule of thumb, but I want to talk you through it so that you're aware of what's there and what is available to you. And it's called the Long-Term Servicing branch. So in that download that you can get from the Volume License Servicing Center or from MSDN or the Evaluation Center, when you download the Configuration Manager 1606 baseline build, you now have the option during installation of installing a Long-Term Servicing branch edition of Configuration Manager. It's on the same media as the current branch edition. It's just a different option and setup. And I'll show you a screenshot of it, and I'll show it to you live in my virtual machines. Now, again, I mentioned you probably don't want to use this release, and I've got a slide in here that will tell you the one time you would want to consider this release. It is a limited functionality release. They've removed access to some of the features that rely on Microsoft Cloud access. And I got a slide that lists them for you, the next slide coming up. It also has limited operating system support for clients as well as site systems, which I'll explain in another slide. Now, the one advantage of the Long-Term Servicing branch release is that it is supported for 10 years without doing any updates to it. Whereas your current branch editions of Configuration Manager, those that you might have in place right now, you have technically 1 year of life of a current branch release. So what that means to you is if you did implement current branch 1511, which was the previous baseline build, and if you have not updated that to 1602 or 1606, so you're still sitting at 1511, technically you're going to be out of product support in early December. The product group supports a build of the current branch release of Configuration Manager for 1 year. Now, at the end of that 1 year time frame, the product does not stop working. It continues to function fine. It's just that you're out of product support. So if you call up Microsoft support and say, hey, I got a problem with my current branch environment, and they find out that you're on 1511, technically you're out of support. Now, Microsoft support is very, very good. They'll work with you as far as they can to help determine the cause of your problem. But if you're on 1511 and you get to December of this year, you're out of support. And if they can't reproduce that problem in 1511, what they would do is they would tell you you need to update to a later build. So you could go to 1602 or 1606, or by then the next release should come out, which likely is going to be 1610. So you just have to update to another build to get back into product support. So that's the scenario on there, whereas the LTSB release is supported for 10 years without doing any updates. In fact, you're not going to be any updates available to the Long-Term Servicing Branch Edition other than hot fixes that they might have because of security updates. So just be aware of that. So these terms that you're hearing, current branch and LTSB, they should sound familiar because it's basically the exact same servicing model that Windows 10 has. With their 1507 and 1511 and 1607 releases, as well as they have a couple of LTSB releases that we'll talk about. So anyway, what's limited in this LTSB release? They removed all the features that rely on the Microsoft Cloud, such as the updates and servicing feature, are not supported for implementing new features. So if you install the LTS Be Release, you'll still have the updates and servicing feature that I'm sure you've heard about in other webinars, which I know I've done some webinars and presentations at conferences about it. You'll still find out about new updates, but when you try and implement one of those, it'll say, sorry, this is only supported for the current branch edition. But you'll need the updates and servicing feature to get any security type hot fixes that they release. Microsoft Intune, you cannot integrate Microsoft Intune with the LTSB release because that relies on the cloud, which that also means that you can't implement the on-premises edition of mobile device management and current branch because that also relies on Microsoft Intune subscription, although the mobile devices don't use it, like traditionally they would in something called a hybrid scenario, but the site does. The Windows 10 servicing dashboard and servicing plans area of the console goes away because the LTSB release of Configuration Manager does not support Windows 10 Current Branch or Current Branch for Business. I'll talk about that on the next slide more. It won't support any new Windows operating systems. So as Windows evolves, whether it's server editions or new client editions, they won't be supported or aren't expected to be supported in Configuration Manager LTSB. Asset Intelligence. Asset Intelligence as a feature is still there. What's removed is the Asset Intelligence synchronization point, because that, again, relies on getting up to the cloud. And what that Asset Intelligence synchronization point's there for is to help provide a new catalog for you that would bring down a new catalog of application signatures. You'd be able to more easily identify which applications are in your environment. But the Asset Intelligence feature for identifying your software is still there through hardware inventory. It just will not do the updating. Cloud distribution points are not applicable. Exchange Online for an Exchange server connector for mobile device management is not applicable. Same as any of the pre-release features. So there's some pre-release features that got introduced as of 1606, and those are not applicable for the LTSB release. As far as client and server operating systems, the bottom line here, there's a lot of stuff in this slide, is that for site systems, the same Windows Server editions are supported as the current branch release, from Windows Server 2008, SP2, up through Windows Server 2016. For clients, the list is right now the same. However, what you don't have access to is support for Windows 10 Current Branch and Windows 10 Current Branch for Business, which means the Windows 10 1507, 1511, and 1607 releases are not supported with the LTSB release of Configuration Manager. You'd have to use the current branch release. It does support Windows 7, Windows 8.1, and then the 2 LTSB releases of Windows 10 Enterprise, as you see on the slide. It also supports Windows Embedded, it supports Macs, it supports your Linux and Unix clients, and there's tons of different distros available for that. So in essence, the same operating systems that you currently have for current branch support, with the exception of Windows 10 Current Branch and Current Branch for Business. Okay, so this doesn't really sound like something you want to implement, but why would you? Well, the reason the product group made this LTSB release of Configuration Manager is realistically only for customers who decide not to keep up to date with software assurance. Configuration Manager 2012 as well as Current Branch requires software assurance to get the update capabilities of it. If you decide you don't want to maintain your software assurance benefit, then legally you have to remove or uninstall your Configuration Manager implementation. So this is a version of Configuration Manager that does not require software assurance, so you'd be able to have still some Configuration Manager capabilities, albeit in a limited capacity, as we saw in these last couple of slides, but you will have configuration manager to go out there and patch your clients and deliver software and so on. There are just some limitations with it. So unless you're in that scenario, unless you're in the scenario where you decide you want to let your software assurance benefits lapse, there'd be no reason for you to implement the LTSB release. Now, the nice thing is, let's say you got to this, in fact, let me just switch to the next slide so you can see the screen, and I'll show you this to you again in my VM in just a minute. Here's the setup screen, and as you see, you have the option here. I'm going to draw an arrow here for you. You have the option of going ahead and during setup of choosing current branch, or you can choose long-term servicing branch. And obviously, for the vast majority of scenarios, you should choose the current branch scenario and stick with this updating of your environment every 4 months as the product group has been doing. But let's just say you went ahead and you saw this and you weren't sure what to do, so you went ahead and picked the long-term servicing branch. And you get your environment installed or upgraded to this release, and then you go back and you find out about some of these limitations. Okay, now what do you do? Well, the nice thing is that you can, let me go ahead and clear the drawings there and go back to the normal pen so it lets me move my slide. You can go ahead and convert from an LTSB installation over to current branch. Nice, easy thing to do. So they did make the availability for you if you made that mistake, or maybe you did let software assurance lapse and you want to then renew your software assurance. You can go ahead and convert back over from an LTSB release over to current branch release. Now, you cannot convert from current branch over to LTSB. If you are a software assurance customer and you do decide to let that lapse, you can't convert back over. You would have to uninstall what you have, then install a brand new LTSB environment. Now, you could probably do a migration from your current branch environment over to this brand new LTSB before you uninstall current branch. So let me go ahead and show you that live, and then I'll talk about the, I want to go to this guy right here, this virtual machine environment. Okay, and hopefully you guys can see that now. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've downloaded the 1606 baseline build, and this is a Configuration Manager 2012 R2 SP1 environment, and I've kicked off setup for it to do an upgrade. And you can see here that it tells me that it is version 1606. Previously, when I would try and do this with other demos, this would have said version 1511 because that was my baseline build that I had to update to or install to. So I'm going to go ahead and click install, and I'll click next at the welcome screen or the before you begin screen. And as soon as this updates, you'll see that it tells me that I can go ahead and do an upgrade scenario. Come on, go ahead and update for me. Come on screen, there we go. So now I'll zoom in for you. So you can see that it gives me the option here of doing an upgrade. I don't have the option of doing a clean install of a primary site or a central administration site, but only because I'm on an existing Configuration Manager 2012 site. If this was a clean server, it didn't already have Configuration Manager installed, then yes, I would have the ability from 1606 to directly go and install a primary site or a CAS if I needed to. But I'm on an existing site, so I have the upgrade option. So I'll go ahead and click the upgrade scenario, and then this is my normal dialog. And you guys have seen this before. You've seen this setup where it had this much of it in there for you, where you can go ahead and designate, yeah, I want to do the evaluation version of the product, or here's my license key, so let me go ahead and install the non-time-bombed edition of it. So what's new on the setup screen is the bottom half. So first off, you have the ability to specify your software assurance expiration date. What this provides to you is the ability to put in when your software assurance expires, and then Configuration Manager will notify you as you start getting towards the end of your software assurance date. So as you start getting close to that date, it will notify you so that you can go back to Microsoft and If you decide to renew, you can go back there and renew that. And then I'll show you when we get to a environment installed, I'll show you how you can go in there and change that date. But yeah, you can just go in here and put in your date. But it doesn't prevent anything from working. It doesn't disable anything at that point in time. It's just a visual reminder to let you know that when your software assurance expires, and then it will pop up with a notification to let you know that you're getting close to that. And then obviously down here at the bottom, you have these two checkboxes, or not checkboxes, I'm sorry, radio buttons, to go ahead and designate whether or not you want to install the current branch or the LTSB release. Again, and it tells you here in the text, it's really intended for customers that have software assurance agreements that expire. So now you go ahead and say, yes, I need to do the LTSB release. So that's your scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and not go through the upgrade process. You've seen an upgrade before. But I already have an environment where I did install the LTSB release. So let me show you a couple of things there. So I'm switching over to a different virtual machine environment, and this one is an LTSB installation. Again, normally you wouldn't do this, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like. And visually, you're not going to see a whole lot of difference between the current branch edition and the LTSB edition unless you're really paying attention to things. So if you go to the Help About, so go way up in the upper left-hand corner, drop down on that triangle, and go About Configuration Manager, you'll see when you zoom in on it, it says it's version 1606. So it is the 1606 baseline build, and I installed this directly from that media. I didn't go to 1511 and update it, because you can't update LTSB again. So the official way to tell, because you can't really tell very well just by looking, whether you're on current branch or LTSB, is go to your administration workspace, expand site configuration, click on the sites node, and then go to the hierarchy settings. So up on the ribbon, you have this action here called hierarchy settings. So go ahead and click on that. And then this brings up your hierarchy settings. And there's a new tab in 1606 called licensing. So you go to the licensing tab, and this is where you can go ahead and change your software assurance date. So let's say I had put in my date and I get to the point where it's expiring, and now I want to update that date. I can just go here and drop down and give it my new date that's 3 years in the future or whatever it happens to be. So very, again, nice and easy way for you to stay up to date with that. But to tell whether you're on LTSB or not, it all revolves around this checkbox. If you have this checkbox that's labeled Convert to Current Branch, and you can select it, that means you're on the LTSB edition. If you're on an environment that is already running Current Branch, this checkbox is already grayed out, so it's unavailable to you. So that's the real legal, not legal, but real proper way of determining whether you're on current branch or LTSB. Is this checkbox available to you to select or not? If it's available to select, you're on LTSB. If it's not available, then you're on the current branch edition. A couple other things just to point out those things. If you go to Cloud Services, go to Microsoft Intune Subscriptions, and you go to Add Subscription, you'll see something like this. Hey, this feature is only available for current branch. And they tell you in this dialog where to go to convert from LTSB to current branch. The same thing would be there if you went and tried to add a cloud distribution point. So if I do that, it'll give me that same message. If you go to the software library workspace, if you're familiar with the current branch release, you notice that there's something missing here, and that's the Windows 10 servicing dashboard that would be sitting right underneath operating systems. That's gone because, again, you don't service Windows 10 LTSB editions. You only service Windows 10 current branch and current branch for business, which is not supported by the LTSB release. So anyway, that's the scenario around that. So again, you do have the ability of converting if you need to, or if you have the software assurance benefits. Again, you just go back to sites, you go to hierarchy settings, you go to your licensing tab, and then you click the checkbox to convert, and you just click OK, and then all those features light up for you. So again, if, just for that software assurance thing, I would just go ahead and punch in what my software assurance date is. And now when I've done that, I would be able to go in here, and now you can see I can add an Intune subscription. And I'll kill that. And if I go back to software library, I probably have to close and restart the console to get that Windows 10 servicing dashboard to appear again. So I would expect that. But that's what it looks like, and that's how you convert. Okay, so enough on that. Let's go ahead and move on. So that's really it as far as System Center and its updates related to Configuration Manager. So it's a new baseline build. You can install directly to 1606 with that hotfix included. You can, for migration scenarios, for brand new environments, or for an upgrade from ConfigMan 2012. With the rest of the time, what I wanted to talk about is the two most recent technical preview releases of Configuration Manager. Because specifically in this release I'm going to talk about now, 1609, there definitely is going to be something that's going to impact every single one of you guys. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that because it is going to change how you work with boundary groups and distribution points. Okay, if you're not familiar with technical previews, what technical previews are, it's a different installation of Configuration Manager current branch, not production capable. You're limited to 10 clients, and as well as limited on the type of clients and SQL Server editions and a standalone primary site, so no hierarchy at all. They're meant to be lab-only scenarios where you get to look at features and provide feedback back to Microsoft on features that they have included in this technical preview that at some point in time in the future would expect to become available to your production environment. So whereas the production current branch scenarios, you get builds every 4 months, 1511, then it was 1602, and that was just a timing thing because of Windows 10, then 1606, and we're expecting the next one to be production 1610. Could be 1611, but likely it'll be 1610. Whereas in technical previews, you get a new build every single month. So I think the first one was like 1509, and every month since then there's been a technical preview release. So there, again, glimpses at things that might happen in the future. So some of the things in 1609 that you might be interested in, or might not, just depends on your scenarios. Integration with Windows Upgrade Analytics. This is kind of cool in that Windows Upgrade Analytics lets you provide a hotfix to your down-level operating system platforms that will then now collect telemetry data from those environments, Windows 7, Windows 8.1. That telemetry data will go up to Microsoft to a cloud service called Windows Upgrade Analytics. And then as of the technical preview 1609 and following, that data can be brought back down to your Configuration Manager environment, and you'll have a dashboard that will let you see what your upgradability is of your Windows 7 environment and your Windows 8.1 environment up to Windows 10. Because you're already managing your Windows 10 environment if you're already there, or your other platforms there. So this gets you that ability of using Configuration Manager to see how ready you are for upgrade from your down-level operating systems. Additional Windows Store for Business integration features. So Windows Store for Business integration has been there for a while with current branch, and now they have some new features. One of those is prior to Technical Preview 1609, you could only deploy free apps from the Windows Store for Business, and now you can deploy purchased apps from the Windows Store for Business. So that's a cool thing. Endpoint protection, if you're utilizing it for your anti-malware, antivirus software, it has some configuration that lets you determine what is considered a risky computer. So a risky computer would be one that has experienced multiple different types of malware or repeated malware events on it, as well as you can configure how you want to handle the blocking of suspicious files. If you're enrolling iOS devices, Apple has a program called the Device Enrollment Program, and there's some additional settings for that. If you are doing a Microsoft Intune scenario, the current environment allows you to enroll up to 5 devices per end user, and now as of 1609 technical preview, a single user could enroll 15 devices I don't know why anybody in the world would need 15 devices. I have trouble with one mobile phone and a Surface, let alone my laptop, so don't know why I'd want any more than that, but some people do. There's some additional VPN profile types for hybrid enrolled Windows 10 devices. Hybrid means Microsoft Intune integrated with Configuration Manager. Some compliance charts from the Intune integration are available now in Configuration Manager. A lot of new compliance settings available for iOS and Android and Mac and Windows 8.1 and Windows 10. So a lot of new configuration settings you can set there around browsers and apps and so on. If you want to integrate Office 365 with Configuration Manager, that's been available for current branch for a little while now. Certainly in 1606 it had some integration. Now in the technical preview 1609, there's a client management dashboard. So you'll be able to see how many clients you have that are running Office 365 and what builds and so on. You'll also be able to initiate some actions from there, such as deploying Office apps, deploying some Office updates, and so on. If your hardware supports the migration from BIOS to UEFI, there's been some additions in operating system deployment feature to help you do that transition from BIOS to UEFI. And the TechNet docs for the Tech Preview 1609 are quite extensive with screenshots showing you how you implement this new partition for your conversion partition and so on. So quite good capabilities there. So those two slides are things that you may or may not care about that will, when they come into the current branch product for production. But this next slide here is something that you all are going to care about because you guys all have distribution points and you all work with them. And things are changing in relation to distribution points in the concept of boundary groups. This may very well make the next production release for current branch, so you do want to be aware of it. So today when you guys create distribution points, you can designate the connection to that DP as a fast or slow connection. That goes away. When you configure the properties of a distribution point, you can designate whether or not you want other clients outside the boundary group for that distribution point to fall back to accessing this distribution point if they need to find the content yet. That goes away as well. What replaces this functionality in your boundary group scenario now is something called relationships. So you're going to configure relationships between your boundary groups and how quickly a client from one boundary group can fall back to DPs in another boundary group to gain access to content if they can't find that content on a distribution point in their own boundary group. So you have what's called a current boundary group and you have what's called a neighboring boundary groups. There's also the concept of a default site boundary group, which kind of replaces that fallback configuration as a, hey, if you can't find it anyplace else, come back to me and I may have the content for you. So I'll show you what this looks like in my next demo coming up and I'll explain it more there. But just be aware of the fact that boundary group implementation is changing and your definitions of fast, slow, and fallback are kind of changing how you interact with those. And again, I'll show you that in just a minute. What I want to talk about first before I show you the demo here is Technical Preview 1610, which just came out. And there's 4 things in that build that may be applicable for you as well. And I think definitely one of them might be applicable to everybody. So again, 1610 is the latest technical preview release. These things I'll talk about here may or may not make the next production release. If not the next one, then likely they'll be in one of the future ones. But here's some of the things in there. Automatic deployment rules, which you should be familiar with. They allow you to automatically download and distribute patch content that's appropriate based on your filtering. Well, they added a new filtering attribute there for content size. So now you can have your ADR filter on a size of content. And I'll show you what that looks like in my demo. You guys are all familiar with Configuration Manager and deploying of required software, whether it's patches or whether it's applications, packages, and so on. And when that happens, the end user on their computer gets this dialog software center that pops up and says, your IT department has required is requiring software changes on your computer, and you can say install now, or you can basically say install at the deadline, install later, which will install whatever your required time is. Well, now they're implementing a new snooze and remind me feature for your required deployments. And you guys, the concept here is very much like Outlook. So when you have Outlook running and you have a reminder that pops up 15 minutes ahead of that time, there's a snooze button there, and you can say snooze, and you can say snooze, and you can drop down 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever. And I always have mine click a snooze for 5 minutes, and remind me with 5 minutes before the start. So you'll now be able to do a snooze and remind me to have it dismiss that dialog now, but pop it back up again at a designated time. And this will tie into your client agent settings under computer agent for deployment deadline. So it won't let you go beyond whatever your deployment deadline settings are. The next one is the ability to deny a previously approved application request. So if you've ever worked with the application model and you've delivered software and you've stated that this software requires administrator approval. So in the application catalog, the end user clicks the app, they want to install it, they have to click the submit button, they put in their reason why they think they want it, click submit, it's request and then submit, sorry. So they click the request, fill in their why, click submit, it goes to the admin console, and administrator goes to the application approval request area, they approve or deny. Well, in the past, once you approved one, that was kind of it was done. It was approved forever. Now for that user, now you can go back and do a deny on that in the even after you've approved it before. In the past, you had to go into SQL and actually hack the SQL database to change that, which was not supported. And then lastly, which is something I think everybody will have interest in, whether you want to use it or not, but you'll have interest in it, is the ability to designate clients that you want to exclude from automatic client upgrade. And that's my favorite way to upgrade clients when new builds come out, is the automatic client upgrade. So now you'll be able to designate that I want all my clients upgraded automatically to this new build of Configuration Manager, except for those clients in a specific collection. My scenario would be, it's getting to the holiday time frame and I have a bunch of e-commerce servers where people are going out and ordering my products, and I don't want to take a chance on updating those during the holiday season, so I would exclude that collection of my e-commerce servers from this automatic client upgrade when I upgrade my Configuration Manager infrastructure. And I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into some demos there, and let you see what some of these things look like. So first off, I'm going to go back to this tech preview site that I showed you, which is LTSB. I want to show you something here. As I go to the administration workspace, and as I go to distribution points, I'll go to my 1DP, and I'm going to go to properties, and I'm going to go to the boundary groups tab. And then on the boundary groups tab, as I zoom in for you, you notice down at the very bottom, there's this checkbox, allow fallback source location for content. And that's to state that if clients outside my boundary group can't get content in their boundary group, they can fall back to, from a DP in their boundary group, they can fall back to me. So just showing you that this is what you have today. And if you go to a boundary group, so go to my boundary group, you go to your boundary group properties, you add your boundaries in, you go to the references tab, and then this is where you add your distribution points in. And notice that on your distribution points, you have this connection type, and it's listed as fast. If you wanted to change that to slow, you just click this change connection button. That would change your connection from fast to slow. These are the concepts that I mentioned in that slide that are going away with this new boundary group feature. So that's just an environment. It's not, that's this currently 1606. That's what you guys have today, or even in 2012 or 2007. So now let me switch over to my technical preview environment, which is sitting right here. And you can see it's Tech Preview because it shows you up here on your What's New screen. So it's Tech Preview 1610. And it's kind of cool if you've not played around with one. It will just, you can scroll through and see all the new features that are in that technical preview. So here it talks about denying previously approved applications or excluding clients from automatic upgrade, filtering ADRs by content size, and then the snooze and dismiss me. And then you can also scroll down to see previous tech previews. If I go down to what's new in 1609, here's where I'd see boundary group improvements. So that's available to you. And that's a new not dashboard, but a new workspace that they have in tech preview environments called What's New. Just shows you what's new in this build that you can play around with. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, so if I go to administration, and now I go to my distribution points, and I go to my DP and go to that same area, properties, go to the boundary groups tab, you'll notice that that bottom portion of that dialog is now empty. That checkbox to say use as fallback location for content, use as fallback for content location is gone. You don't have that concept anymore. And if you go to a boundary group, so if I go to a boundary group here, and let me go to my current boundary group and go to properties, go to the references tab, you don't have that designation anymore of connection type, fast or slow, or the ability of changing your connection speed. That goes away. So what happens now is, you can see in the background here, I've got a total of 3 boundary groups. My base one for my environment is local clients and TPS. TPS is my site code, technical preview site. That's all the more creative I am in my site code. I also created this one called local DPs in Seattle. This top one, default built-in boundary group for TPS, that's that default site boundary group I referenced on the slide. That's kind of your fallback last resort boundary group. So I'll explain that in just a minute. So now how you work with things is, oops, click escape one too many times. You notice that on your boundary groups dialog, you have this new tab here called relationships. So if I go to the relationships tab, you'll see that I don't have any relationships by default. So I click add, and now it shows me all the other boundary groups that I have the ability of establishing a relationship with. Remember, I'm in the local clients and TPS boundary group, so I can establish a relationship with the local DPs in Seattle boundary group or that default built-in boundary group for site TPS. So let me go ahead and click local DPs in Seattle, and you see down at the bottom, you have the ability of designating after how much period of time, after how long of a delay do I want to allow clients from their current boundary group to fall back to DPs in this additional boundary group to get their content. You see the default is 120 minutes. So let me go ahead and drop this one down to 10 minutes. And then let me go ahead and add another relationship to that fallback boundary group of default boundary group. You see it defaults 120. Let me go ahead and put this one at 20 minutes. Notice there also is a checkbox here to say never fall back. So if you want, you can go ahead and say, I never want other clients or clients from this boundary group to fall back to my DPs in my boundary group. But for now, I'll just go ahead and leave those. Okay, so in this scenario, so I'm going to go up here a little bit. So my current boundary group is local clients in TPS. So let's assume my client falls within the boundaries that I've configured on the general tab for this boundary group. So what happens is, let's say I have a half dozen DPs in this boundary group. Clients will randomly pick a DP in this boundary group, and they'll try to find the content on that DP for up to 2 minutes in time. After 2 minutes, they'll switch to another DP in that same boundary group. And they'll just go through all the DPs in their boundary group until they've expired them all, and they hit the next timer. The next timer is 10 minutes. Oops, sorry about that, wrong button. I wanted to do an arrow. So after searching all the DPs in my boundary group for 10 minutes, then I'll add in the distribution points in my neighboring boundary group. My current one, local clients in TPS, is considered my current boundary group. Local DPs in Seattle is considered a neighbor boundary group. I'll fall back to those DPs in my neighboring boundary group. So now for the next 10 minutes, I'll try all the DPs in my current boundary group, as well as all the DPs in my neighboring boundary group, local DPs in Seattle. So I'll try all of them for a period of 20 minutes. Then after 20 minutes total, which technically in this scenario it would be 10 minutes of trying the combined set of my current boundary group and my neighboring boundary group, because my timer says after 20 minutes total, then allow me fall back to my default built-in boundary group for TPS. So up to 10 minutes, it tries only my local boundary group. After 10 minutes, it tries DPs in my local boundary group as well as local DPs in Seattle. After 20 minutes, it tries my DPs in my local boundary group, my DPs in Seattle, as well as any DPs that are configured for my default built-in boundary group for TPS. So that's how you handle that fast and slow. For your slower connections, you give them a longer time frame before your clients fall back to those DPs. And then unless you select the checkbox, never fall back, it's going to allow you to fall back to those DPs with that fallback configuration. So again, this stuff is happening in your production releases. My guess is it's probably going to happen in the next production release, which will be 16.10 likely. So expect to see that. Now, a couple of the things that we had in there. If I go to software library, and again, here's that Windows 10 servicing dashboard that I mentioned was gone from the LTSB environment. I don't have any Windows 10 clients in this environment, but it's a dashboard that shows me all my builds of Windows 10, what kind of rings I have, and lets me set up a servicing plan to go ahead and automatically deploy new builds of Windows out there. And let me look at the lifespan of those. But that's the dashboard that's gone from the LTSB release. You also do see here's your Office 365 client management dashboard, which again, I don't have any Office 365 clients in this environment, but it would show you how many of those I have, what versions I have. It would let me create a new installer for Office 365, let me create some client settings to deploy to Office 365 clients, or create an ADR to go ahead and deploy new updates for Office 365. But where I was going here was automatic deployment rules. I don't have one. Let's go ahead and create one. I'll do demo. I'm going to deploy this to my pre-prod clients. And I'll click next a couple of times. And here's the filtering that you have for an ADR, which I'm sure you've probably experienced before. What's been added now is the content size filtering. So let me go ahead and select that and show you what it does. So I select content size. I tell it what content I want to look for. So if I do something like less than or equal to 100K and add that in, click OK, and you see here it says content size KB less than or equal to 100. I click preview, and it finds in this case 71 updates. So it found 71 updates where the content in size was less than or equal to 100K. Just to show you that how dynamic that is, if I go and change that, let me drop that down in half. So I'll say less than or equal to 50K, and I'll add that in, and let me remove the 100 just for clarity. Click OK. Now click preview. Now you see it drops down to 16 updates. So it drops me down from 71 to 16 updates that meet that criteria. And of course, you still have the criteria for looking in the title or looking at the product or the update classification or date released and revised or custom severity and so on. All those cool things are still there, but it does get you that capability of now doing some additional filtering on your automatic deployment rules. All right, I think one more thing and then we'll get back and finish up the presentation for you because we're almost at the top of the hour and you guys probably have work to do today. I'm going back to bed, but if I go back to the administration workspace. So let's go through the scenario where I've updated my, my current branch environment and I want to upgrade all my clients. What I said is my favorite way of doing that is the automatic client upgrade feature. So go to the sites node, you go to hierarchy settings, and here's that licensing tab we saw before. And here you can see that I'm on a current branch release. So here the checkbox is unavailable to me. I can't convert to current branch because I already am running current branch. So just to show you that from the LTSB release. Another new tab you have here in the technical preview releases now is the diagnostics and usage data tab. And this is where you could go in a production environment and set what level of telemetry data you want to provide from Configuration Manager to Microsoft to allow it to find out what new builds are available to you. And in a technical preview environment, you can't change that. It's hard-coded to you at the enhanced configuration. But this used to be up here on the in the area with the help about. You used to go to help, that little triangle drop down. It used to be usage and diagnostics data here. So if I just for a second switch back over to my LTSB environment, which is right here, and I drop down, you'll see that here's that diagnostics and usage data section is here on the help about drop down. And if I go ahead and select that, just so you can see in a production environment, you do have the ability of changing from enhanced to either basic or full to control what level of diagnostic or telemetry data you want to send back up to Microsoft. Okay, but where we were going before I sidetracked this is I want to go back to my hierarchy settings, and I want to go to the client upgrade tab. So on the client upgrade tab, what I would do is implement this feature on top, which is automatic client upgrade. So let me go ahead and enable that. So I'll say upgrade all my clients. You get this warning saying, hey, we're going to do that for all the clients in your hierarchy. And now I designate my time frame. So what this does for me, it says from now until this expiration time, 7 days from now, my deadline, I want all clients in my all systems collection, that being all Windows Configuration Manager clients, I want them to upgrade to this build of Configuration Manager, 5.00.8385.1000, which is probably, I think I was on Tech Preview 1606 before I updated, because you can see my 1610 build is 8455. So I'm saying I want all my clients in the All Systems collection to go ahead within the next 7 days, upgrade to this build 8385. But now down at the very bottom of this dialog, you can now say everybody except for. So if I go ahead and configure that, let me go ahead and select that, and I'll say you can't choose a built-in collection, you have to go to a custom collection. So now I'm saying I want everybody in the All Systems collection except for those that are in the pre-production clients collection to automatically upgrade to this build of software in the next 7 days. So again, that could be your e-commerce servers or maybe just your domain controllers. You already have the checkbox here to state that you want to ignore servers. So you already have that guy right there. If you're concerned about your servers. I am not. I would upgrade my servers automatically as well, but some people are more concerned about that. Now, this is only for the automatic client upgrade, so you could still do a manual installation, you could still do a client push operation, and that would ignore this exclude configuration. So those are a couple of additional things that are coming in the tech previews. Now, again, I don't know if any of these things are going to make the next production release. My guess is that a lot of these will, because they seem to be pretty simple changes and things that are pretty well implemented and working right now, but there's no guarantee. So let's just, I got a couple more slides here to finish up, and then we'll get over to our Q&A section. And I see there's a few questions in the Q&A panel, and if you have one that you already asked, go ahead and type those in right now. So System Center 2016 is now generally available. As part of it, there's a new baseline build of Configuration Manager current branch that you can download. So if you're still on a 2007 or 2012 platform, you can use that to install a brand new Configuration Manager current branch site at build 1606 and including that hotfix. It also includes a new LTSB edition that you should ignore, as I have in the slide, unless you're in that software assurance scenario. So if you're at the software assurance scenario where you let your software assurance expire, then yes, the LTSB edition would be something that would be beneficial for you. Outside that, no. But if you do make the mistake and choose the LTSB, it is very easy for you to convert over to the current branch edition. Then there's some new things that will be coming in the next production release. We don't know what they're going to be. We don't know for sure when the next production release is going to be, but going with what the product group has been stating every 4 months, we'd expect the next production release to be 1610, and we are in October, which is month 10 of 2016. So probably within the next few weeks, we should expect to see a new production build that may have some of these things I showed you in Tech Preview 1609 and 1610. I'm guessing it'll have a lot of the things that I showed you. including the boundary group configuration changes, the automatic client upgrade exclusion, and maybe the ADR stuff. So I'm expecting that a lot of those things will be in the next production release, but we won't know until it does become available. And that likely won't happen until sometime early in November, maybe mid-November. They have to finish up the code. Then they do internal testing. Then they give that code to their TAP customers and have their TAP customers test it out. And then they'll go ahead and make those changes available, that code available to everybody else. So, all right. One more thing before we get into our Q&A. If you guys are not familiar with the Cyrusen community, it's been around for a few months now. It's a Cyrusen-based forum where you can go and discuss issues, ask questions, suggest new features, suggest new products, respond to other people's questions or discussions. So you'll find Cyrusen employees up there answering questions and responding. You'll find a lot of our customers up there answering questions from other customers. So that's really cool. Not only does it allow you to talk about configuration, our apps themselves from Cyrusen, but also core service manager or configuration manager, all the other products inside System Center. You can go ask general questions on configuration manager. I'm up there monitoring for the configuration manager apps as well as questions on configuration manager itself. So the link to join is down at the bottom of your screen. If you're not already a member of that, it's free. So it's a great way of getting additional questions asked or provide suggestions for new features or new products to Cyrusen. All right, then what's next? So look for some new configuration manager apps from Cyrusen soon. In fact, we announced at IT Dev Connections 2 weeks ago, we announced a configuration manager web-based console that we'll be providing. In fact, I've got a webinar, I think it's scheduled for like 2 weeks from today, UK time, where I'll be going through what that looks like. So I'll be talking about it, give you a demonstration of it. And then we'll have some additional configuration manager apps coming out as well. If you need any help with any of your System Center products, specifically as far as what I'm involved with is configuration manager for deployments, migrations, upgrades, or anything, our contact information is on the screen here. You can go ahead and contact team@cyrusen.com or go to our website. Or back on the front slide of this presentation, I had my email address as well as Chris's email address on there. You can contact us and we can help you out with whatever you need. All right, with that, I know we're we're past the top of the hour. Some of you probably have to drop off. I'll hang around for a while. I'm going to go through the questions. I'm going to leave the recording going so these whatever I have to say here on the questions get recorded for you guys. But if you do have to drop off, thanks for attending. Appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us today. I am going to go through the Q&A, and I'll, again, hang out for a while. If you guys have more questions you want to ask, feel free to do so. So Leon says, what do you see as the benefit of your self-service password reset product over the feature that is offered with Microsoft's Azure AD premium features? So Chris may have some additional things to offer on there because he knows more of our other products than I do. I'm more the configuration manager guy, but if you have Azure AD Premium, that has great password reset capabilities in there as well. If you don't have Azure AD Premium, our solution is good because you don't have to have that. Some of you may just have Azure AD and not the Premium Edition, but it integrates with the Windows logon screen. So directly from the Windows logon screen, you can do a password reset request from there. Have a challenge or response type system with multi-factor authentication to help provide some of those capabilities for you to do your password resetting. I don't know if anything else you want to add onto that, Chris?
Yeah, so if you also own System Center Service Manager, the password reset tool has the capability to write back into your ITSM or CMDB the creation of a work item that password reset has been changed. So, for example, some of the challenges with other password reset tools is visibility on how many times that's being reset, and obviously it's a CI item in your CMDB. So what we are able to do is write back into Service Manager a standard change that CI has been changed. So it's effectively joining some of your operations tools to your ITSM tools is what our password reset can do as well.
Yeah, that's a great benefit, is that ability of tracking that, not just from a how many of those requests are being implemented, but also is Wally a problem child? Is he the one that always forgets to change his password and ignores those nags that say, hey, your password's changing, and forgets to do that, and he keeps doing that. So then we maybe have to do some one-off education of Wally. So that's a good feature as well. Good. All right. Leon is also asking, I am a keen follower of Configuration Manager and Enterprise Client Management, including Intune, but have failed to engage with any other user groups within the UK. This is something I would like to get involved in and attend events. I've tried to engage WMUG within the UK, but have not had any response yet, so I don't know when they hold any events. Is that something you might be able to assist me with? Well, I do know the guys that run WMUG, so if you're not getting any responsiveness from them, that's very surprising, because that's not what we want to hear. We want to hear that people are engaging and they are responding to requests from user groups. I've been to WMUG a number of times myself, probably a half dozen times over the years, if not more, and presented there at Microsoft, TVP, or Cardinal Place, Victoria Place, and so on. And always enjoyed it. They do a great job. So, and I know Chris and I had a meeting with the guy who runs the WMUG out there as well. So either of us can get you in contact with Rob and the guys to get that going, because that's not what we want to hear. We certainly do want to hear vibrant user groups and so on. So we can work with you on getting that taken care of. So sorry to hear that. All right, Andrew, who's left, asked for the purpose of the software assurance expiration date on the product key screen, and I assume that was asked before I discussed that, but it's just to give you let you put that in, and then Configuration Manager will actually remind you with a pop-up that lets you know when you're getting close to it. I want to say it's a month out. I'd have to go back and look and see exactly what the timing is, but it does pop up with a notification, let you know that, and then I showed you in a live environment where you can go and extend that if you need to, once you do extend it. What happens when active becomes current license? Will the existing install of CB continue, or will it detect the lapse and stop working? So I'm not exactly, I think if I understand what you're asking there, Ann, if your software assurance does expire, it doesn't stop any functionality in your existing current branch environment. Just technically you're out of compliance, so legally you're not supposed to be running it, but it doesn't expire anything or prevent any features from working, doesn't remove any features automatically like the LTSB edition does. So you still have the same capabilities. Just to get back within a legal scenario, you have to go and extend your software assurance contract with Microsoft. If that's not what you're asking, go ahead and you can go ahead and type back in another question and we can cover that. Ann's next question, if you use an automated script to install a primary site, is there a command switch needed to make it LTSB? Well, hopefully by now you saw that you don't want to install the LTSB edition. So hopefully you don't want to do that. If you do want to install the LTSB edition, that is a great question. And honestly, I would guess, knowing what the product group's philosophy is and thinking on the LTSB edition, that they don't want you to use it except for that one scenario with your software assurance. I would honestly be surprised if they did create a command line switch to designate that you want to use the LTSB edition. I'd have to go back and look at the new docs. Nobody's brought that up. I've not heard that question asked before, so I'll have to go back and look at the docs and see if they have a switch for that. I'd be surprised if they do, because they don't want you to use it. So why would they make it easier for you to implement it? I think they want to make you make more of a conscious decision in the UI to make that choice. Leon is asking, is to convert to current branch and the reminder of the licensing tab only available on 16.6 rollup 1 implementations? Rollup 1 implementations that are installed from the baseline build. I am running this version, but upgraded from 15.11 and cannot see that option at all. And even though you can't convert over. Yeah, it's a new thing that's added as of the new baseline build 16.06. And so I'm sure you will see that when you update to the next production release, 16.10. They'll add that capability in there, putting in the software assurance date and stuff in there. So yeah, that was a new thing that was added after the 16.06 came out back in July, and they added it because of this current this LTSB release. So so yeah, it's not there now. It's in that baseline build that I showed you, and I'm sure they'll add it as an updates and servicing feature to 16.10 when that comes out, so you have that same capability of tracking your software assurance. Oh, and Leon's going to let me go to bed. So thank you. But no, we took the time to answer those. So, and Ann says that is what she was asking. So very good. Okay. So any more questions you guys have? Like I said, I'm already awake, so might as well answer any additional questions you got. Now I know it's we're 15 minutes past our allotted time, which is par for the course for me. I don't think I ever end a webinar on time, so I'm a schedule allotment, but it all just depends on how much I talk, but then also how many questions you guys ask. And it looks like there's nothing else coming in, so with that, I guess I'll go ahead and close this out. Chris, anything else that you want to add?
No, thank you, Wally, and thank you everyone for attending.
All right, so thank you guys. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks again for taking the hour plus out of your time to listen to me ramble on. I appreciate it. Hopefully you found the information beneficial and worthwhile. I'll stop the recording. We'll get this converted over and post it up on the Vimeo site. And again, I'm guessing it'll probably be up there tomorrow sometime, so it might be the weekend for you guys' time frame. But you just go to vimeo.com/teamcyrusson, and then you'll be able to find this webinar up there if you want to listen to it again or watch the demos, or you had to drop off early or whatever. So again, thank you guys very much for attending. Appreciate it. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll see you on a future webinar, maybe in a few weeks when we talk about the Cyrusson portal for Configuration Manager. Thanks all. Thanks for attending.
Everyone.